Welcome to SwarmCast, the marketing hive for pest control pros from coast to coast. If you're tired of your competition bugging you and want to grow your business like a well-built colony, you're in the right place. Each episode, we'll break down the latest marketing trends, expert insights, and proven strategies to help you exterminate the competition and keep your phones buzzing. So strap in, pest bosses. It's time to swarm the market and take your business to the next level. This is SwarmCast.
Welcome to the SwarmCast. My name is Wyatt Chambers, and today's guest is Adam Weber, a CEO of multiple companies along his travels. The one that we ran into each other at is at Arizona PPO. The name of his company is called Driven. And I just want to read to you the title of his website. It says, "Same team, double the results." Well, how do you do that? What value are you going to get? Click to subscribe. This is going to be one of those a podcast you're not going to want to miss. So welcome to the show, Adam Weber.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Wyatt. I'm glad to be here. And I love that statement on the front of the website. I'm glad you read that. I mean, it's aggressive for sure. But we've seen some really cool things, and granted it's marketing, I'll give you that. But at the same time there's some really fun stuff that's happening within our ecosystem, and yeah, excited to chat with you.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, I'm a data guy, and most people don't know this, but I've been a Google junkie here for over 17 years, agency owner, and it was called Partner, the Partner Program, agency program. We had Google events at our office. So data is everything. And when we talk about data driven, making better decisions, when I read your paragraph underneath that, it says, your product integrates from all different pest control software. So let's talk about that. What platforms are you currently integrated with that you like working with?
Yeah, so the core of our system, especially on the back end, is an integration tool, right? Like we collect the data from every source that an operator can use. And those are vast. Honestly, we keep finding it as we work with more and more clients over the last little while that everybody uses kind of a different system, and there's all these niche providers of all these different tools. So at its core, the top level, we start at the CRM, right? So that's going to be things like field routes, like PestPack, like Brio, like Gorilla Desk, Fieldwork, and all the others and everywhere in between. So we start there, and that's a big piece of what we do, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But we also then work down the line. There's tools like GPS monitoring solutions. There's voice over IP systems. There's payroll solutions. There's HR and time tracking solutions. There's a huge array of different things. There's NPS scores that are coming from some tools. So that was really, I don't want to go too far down this road, but that was really the core of where Driven came from. I was an operator. I owned a pest control company for 10 years, and I wanted to be the forefront of technology, right? Like I wanted to use all these cool tools that were coming into the space. And so I did, but I found really quickly that they worked, but for me to get as much value out of them as I needed to, it was taking me 15, 20 hours a week just in pulling reports and trying to understand how this connects to this and what this does here and why we're using this. And so that really, at the top level, there's much more value that we can get into. But at the very first level was just, I need my time back as a CEO. I need to understand what my business is doing so that I can actually fix it and I can improve the business. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer to your short question.
Well, no, it's a good one. I could tell that. First of all, being a pest control owner and then getting into the software business is almost unheard of, right? Not too many people are in that space. So just hats off to you. I mean, my background, my family are software engineers. And so I was the guy that wasn't smart enough to do that. So hats off to you. And then running a pest control industry, platform, and then integrating tools to make your job easier. That's just kind of a natural progression. No one wants to spend hours diving into an application to get the data that you need to make better decisions. So I'm curious, how did that go? Was it just one of those things where you're like, hey, I need these 15 hours back from my life, or was it I better do this before what happens, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, really great question. So, first and foremost, I am not that smart guy either. What I'm good at is surrounding myself with people that are better than me. So that's what I've been able to do, luckily. But yeah, I come from the startup world. So before I owned a pest control company, I owned a clothing company. Before that, in this interim, I also owned a couple dental practices, actually down in your neck of the woods in Arizona, I think. But yeah, so. I was running our company and we were getting to a point where we were really starting to scale. We were in 4 locations in Texas. And I just found that I was strapped for time. And so, yeah, the first reason that we built this, and we built it for us internally first, was just to free up time, was just to give me access into the data that I knew was there. I owned the data already by having all of those tools, but I just couldn't use it well enough. So yes, that was the first piece. Again, brought in smarter people than me to help build the platform out. What we ended up finding though was that's cool. And the CEO of a pest control company or owner or operator, yes, their time is valuable. Yes, they're really important. What we ended up finding was the bigger shift though, was when we could take all that data and we could give it to the individuals that, if we're being totally honest, they're really the ones that change the business. Those are the technicians, the CSRs, the salespeople. When we could give it to them, that's really where behavior started to change and where the business started to be better, with no increased costs, no increased marketing, no decrease of our labor costs or any of those things. Just by giving them the information about how they were doing in their day-to-day jobs, they did better at those jobs. So that was kind of our big mentality shift, and that's when we ended up deciding, hey, this is something really powerful. This is something that doesn't exist in the industry right now. So let's do it. Ultimately sold the pest control company and jumped into this full time. But yeah, that was kind of our big like mental shift, was like, I think I'm pretty cool and I know my time is valuable. But when I took that and I could give it to my team, then there was like this big light bulb event where, wow, my team just does better now at their jobs without me even having to do anything. They just see it and they're better.
Makes sense to me. I was walking around the floor there at AZPPO, and I see this cool TV. It's touchscreen, and it has one of these business intelligence boards up. I'm like, that's what every business should have, right? This big TV where people can actually see data in real time and make decisions, right? It's like, why do I have to dive into the data when I could just configure a screen, pull all the pieces that's appropriate to, you said, to the person doing the work, to be able to make intelligent decisions. I mean, that's really what these systems should support, and that's the beauty of this business intelligence tools that should be cool. But I mean, we're using it to make better decisions. And then obviously, I saw the mobile version. You have mobile, like people with mobile apps out there. That's super fun. It's
Yeah.
super fun that you've been able to do that. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't know the answer to it. Maybe you do. Is what's the average amount of tech stack that a pest control company will use to run its business?
Yeah, I would say consistently there's 3 pieces at least. And those are the
Okay.
CRM, GPS, and phone systems. Those are kind of our core ones that we're working with most of the time. I will say we have a few clients that are in the like 9 to 10 range, and that starts to get really complicated. But what I will say too is that there's a really interesting point to be made here. You're talking about BI, right? And there's BI tools out there, right? And I'm giving shout outs to potential competitors, but there's Power BI, there's Domo, there's some other tools, Clipfolio, that will create these top level BI dashboards. What we quickly found though is that pest control is unique. We are a very unique industry, in a lot of senses, and I love it for its uniqueness, but also in the sense that every business operates very differently from the next. We all do things that are little variances on the next company and the next. And so where those BI companies struggle, and anyone coming into this space, is that you have to understand pest control to be able to deliver accurate information. You can't just go in and copy and paste information from one of these systems into your BI dashboard, because even the systems themselves, I'm good friends with a bunch of people at both Field Routes and PestPack, so I promise I'm not knocking them entirely, but their data is wrong a lot of the time, because they've had to build these top level solutions for hundreds, if not thousands, of companies, and that all operate in a little bit different ways. So I'll be sitting in meetings with people and I'll say, me as an operator, I would log into my field routes and I knew that one of those reports that I was looking at was wrong consistently. And I constantly get these like head nods, like people just get it because they have the same issues. And so because we're pest people, like that's who we are, we're not software people. We've been able to come into this and look at it and say, hey, what actually matters to you? And how do we deliver that information to you? Not just what everyone else thinks you should have or what these top level BI systems think you should have, but how do we build it customized to your situation?
It's a great answer. I mean, I'm using a tool for actually agencies in the marketing segment, and there isn't a one size fits all, and it's pulling in from 75 different sources. And then beyond that, you use what are called zaps, right? Pull other information in to try to present the information to the business owner to make better decisions on marketing information. And when I think about my pest control company, you're right. We're running like field routes. We're running our VoIP, and then we don't even have any of the GPS stuff yet. So that's cool. We'll have to talk more about that. But I know bigger companies that have fleets. What's the crossover? Like, what is the crossover? When should I think about getting GPS into my dashboard and watching that? Is there a car count, or what do you like to see?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I did it with my company at like at
Oh
three
wow,
three
okay.
trucks that I was running. So we did it pretty small. And I'm a data junkie, right? So I could get way too far into this. So you just cut me off if we need to. But it's really interesting when you start to look at these pieces. Number one, the GPS systems are really pretty inexpensive. And I have no like dog in the race, right? Like I don't care which companies. We're agnostic as far as collecting data. We don't care where it comes from. But you look at companies like Azuga or Samsara or LinksUp or Bouncy, there's all these GPS systems that are out there. They can be pretty cheap. Like they're not expensive solutions. And what has happened historically is people implement these tools and then they do one of two things. They look at it if there's an accident, or they look at it if they think their techs are driving somewhere they shouldn't, right? And that's basically it. That's the entirety of their solution. But what's cool about these pieces is that they have so much more in there that we're just not utilizing. Things like driving scores, right? So they can monitor how many times you slam on your brakes, how many times you hit the accelerator too hard. There's even front and rear facing cameras, which I'll say every tech on the planet hates, but they're front and rear facing, so they can track things like distracted driving with AI capacity. They can track how close you're following to other vehicles. And so those things sound like generic things, and they think, hey, what am I going to use that for? But you start connecting that to the rest of the business. Let's talk about, perception of your company. If you've got three trucks on the road and two of them are speeding around, slamming on their brakes, hitting the accelerator fast, I guarantee the trickle down effect of that is 2 to 3 clients a year because they see you speeding, they see you cut you off, and they're like, I'm never going to use that company because that guy cut me off. And then that goes into reviews, right? You leave a negative review about the company because you saw them driving. That affects 10 other people that now see that review. And so there's all these pieces that are interconnected and we've done some case studies with a couple clients where they'll come in and they'll have had GPS solutions for the last 2 years, but we start looking at the data and feeding it to them. Last year they generated say 10 tickets across their 50 technicians and 2 accidents. Now that they're feeding driving scores to their technicians in real time through our system, their drivers are seeing, hey, I can't be a 75 driving score anymore. I've got to be a 95. And so we've been able to show them like, hey, just by showing these scores to your drivers, you now have 1 accident a year and 4 tickets. And that again, trickle down effect is cost savings, your insurance not going up, your downtime of having these vehicles, of having an accident, and just all the pieces that start to play together in that is way more than just knowing where your trucks are on the road, right? There's all these pieces that you can now start to look
Yeah.
at.
No, it's huge. It's an ecosystem, liability, risk. I mean, let's face it, there's a big cost associated with your trucks. And if they're getting beat up, if they're if it's affecting your brand with bad reviews or whatever it might be. You're right. It all ties together. There's a lot more data that can be given. So tell me about the driving score. So you could put that where you show a daily scoreboard for that, or do you show that monthly? How do you usually present that to the pest control owner?
Yeah, so we do it to the owner and to the driver, right? So the technician in our system, every user has their own dashboard. So they log in and they see in real time 5 KPIs that the company has set for them. Things like callback rates, completion percentages of their routes, things like reviews collected, driving scores is one of them, production per hour, total production metrics. So I think we've got like 18 or 19 KPIs that we can track for technicians, and same for CSRs and salespeople. So yeah, we display it in real time. We're pulling it directly out of the GPS systems and feeding it to those people in real time, so they can see like, hey, and this is a little bit side note, but we have this what we call a pro score. And it's a weighted score, a weighted grade based on how they're achieving to their individual goals. So our technicians can log in and see, hey, I had a 95 pro score because I was doing really well. Today I was behind, and so I sped so much, and now I've got a 92 pro score because my driving score dropped so dramatically. And so they can see that and adjust those behaviors in real time, instead of you as an owner coming to them at the end of the week and saying, hey, I can tell you were speeding too much. And now they can maybe change it later, but instead they're getting real-time feedback into their behaviors. And that's across every metric that we do.
See, that's beyond KPIs. That's really an impacting behavior, right? Where the manager doesn't have to talk to them; they can see it. And who knows? A lot of business owners have a hard time figuring out how to properly bonus their technicians. So maybe, if you're tracking 15 KPIs and you're tying it into one score or however, now it becomes easier,
Yeah.
a lot easier to say, well, this is one aspect of your job. The other is this part of your job. So that's fantastic. So we've talked about the driving data integration with the GPS. What are things that are really hot right now that you like integrating, like for a pest control company that maybe they're rated at $1 million or less? What else you see that is very beneficial for that startup?
Yeah, there's a few probably that I would recommend. I always recommend starting really simple, right? Don't get into these crazy KPIs that the technicians can't grasp or can't modify in real time. So there's a couple pieces. Number one, callback rate. The amount of time that you have to go back to a home, right, for free.
Smart.
That one is one of my soapboxes. It gets left behind so often. We always talk about it, but what are we doing to actually change those behaviors? And so I will say as well, I'm knocking on the CRMs too much here, but most of the CRMs fail at callback rate. It's consistently wrong within Field Routes, PestPack, and the others. And that's because it's a causation based rate. It should be a causation based, right? So whether you're production routes or an hourly pay system for your technicians, there will be times where service happens and then 2 weeks later, customer calls in, they need a callback, and that technician isn't available anymore. Or another service has happened in the meantime for mosquito or whatever else it is. In the traditional system, that just gets tied either to the technician who performed the reservice or to the last service type or the last service of any type. And so that means that it's not really being tied to who caused the reservice. And so we don't look at reports, we look at raw data, we rebuild those in a way that's really spectacular, and we can give it to them in accurate fashion. And so now the technicians can see I have an accurate 4%. And one of the other KPIs that we track that I'm wildly addicted to, and I push all of our clients to look at it at least, is average time on site. How much time are they spending at each appointment? And we can see awesome correlation there. You've got one technician that spends 18 minutes per residential home and has an 8% callback rate. And you have another that spends 28 minutes and has a 3% callback rate. And you can say to the first, say, hey, you do a good job. Your customers generally like you, but you have to go back on double the amount of appointments that our other technicians do. Spend 3 more minutes at the home. Walk around the home 2 more times. Just look for something. Go talk to the customer. See if there's anything else you can do. For my technicians, we would keep Windex and a bottle of and a thing of paper towels in their truck. If they finished too soon, I'd make them go wash windows around the front door. Spray the customer's windows and wipe them down, right? Just do something to spend a couple more minutes. not only for customer perception, but also for, longevity of the potential client. So there's just little things that we start to see as far as correlative data that the technicians can really have an immediate impact on, as long as they know what's expected of them and what they should be doing. So
That's fantastic. I mean, there's a real good use of average time on site and then callbacks. Beautiful. What about else that you see that technicians can benefit from as far as seeing the numbers come
yeah.
back?
I would say one of the cool KPIs that we built recently is called an efficiency score. And a lot of companies will pay their technicians based on production, right? But what happens with that is, if you tell your technicians, and techs are hopefully listening to this, and maybe they'll get something, but if you pay them based on production, a lot of technicians think, hey, I produced $5,000 for you, in revenue for the company, and you're only paying me, like, the equivalent of $20 an hour. Like, I deserve more because I made so much money for you. And so that's a discrepancy just in perception for them. But what we've been able to do is take that total production, assume a goal. You're able to come in as a company and say, I want my technicians to average $150 in production per hour. And so we can take that and we can convert what they're actually doing in production per hour into an efficiency score. So the technicians can come in and see, hey, I've got a 98 efficiency score because I'm spending time on productive appointments. And so we can tweak and finesse the data in a way that makes it, number one, a little bit easier to give to them, and also in a way that they can really impact change.
That's awesome. That's a great KPI, especially if you wanted to bonus off that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people will bonus, just on the whole thing. But I think going in, and if you're able to go, well, this month you were more efficient than last month, and here's the bonus. It's almost like doing piecework. You see a lot of body shops do that,
Yeah.
where they're just paying the technician by the job. But this is even, there's a lot more going on than just painting a car or, replacing a bumper or something like that. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
So, man, I see just a lot of cool stuff talking with you in a couple of minutes about, you know, putting something like this in play. And I do think that a lot of software companies say they have these business intelligence dashboards already, but again, it's only pulling in usually data from one source, their own source, right?
Yeah.
Or having APIs. So talk to me about the average person that or company that comes in to integrate this kind of software. Do you have a professional team do it, or do you just walk them through over the phone? What kind of implementation timeframes are average? What do you see there?
Yeah. So our tool is full service. So our clients do almost none of the work, in building these KPIs, right? I tell our clients when we first onboard, 95% of our onboarding time is us. We have to build and interpret the data, connect all their sources, do all of that. The other 5%, yeah, is understanding exactly how they do it. A lot of times in our deliveries, we'll go through and they'll say, hey, I actually want to exclude all of these categories out of our cancellation numbers, or I only want to look at these service types within our sales numbers, or whatever that is. And so we can tweak and finesse it a little bit that way. But our onboarding process is incredibly simple from our client's perspective. So that usually takes between 3 and 4 weeks for us to get in there, understand their data, integrate all their data, and build the dashboards in a way that works for them. And like I said, 95% of that is on our side. So it's a very simple system. It wasn't always that way. I will admit, number one, we're very much a startup, and we're very open about that. I think there's some incredible benefits of that. There's also some downsides, right? We're growing and we're learning at the same time. But over the last year and a half of when we've been running this, it was originally taking 2-3 months for us to onboard a client because we had to finesse and understand all these intricacies of the business. But now as we've got, I think we're at 4,500 plus users on our platform now that are all using it. We've learned unique ways of being able to write very specific systems to manage each and every client. So it's a very smooth system as it stands right now.
And 4,500 users doesn't sound like a startup to me. I mean, that's a lot of users. Speaking of users, and let's talk about AI for a minute. Um, One of the major benefits for AI, as you know, is automation and automating what we can do with this stuff. Talk to me how this is an AI play and how that's working. I mean, how would you, if somebody would said, "Hey, tell me about the AI component," what would you say?
Yeah, really good question. So AI is one of those buzzwords, right? Especially right now in the last little bit. I'm in a couple different committees for NPMA, and so we're constantly talking about it, and hopefully they don't see me as a negative Nancy, but I jump in there a lot, and I'm like, I love talking about AI. But if we're serious about what this is, most of the utilization of AI from pest control operators is going to come through people like me, right? And like outside service providers. So most of the time, the operators don't have a huge impact on making new AI. They're adopting AI tools that are coming into our space. So that will continue happening, right? It's happening in phone systems, it's happening in marketing automation, all of these other pieces that AI is coming into. And so when we're talking about us and what we do here, AI has a really powerful impact in what we do in a couple ways. Number one, in our backend and what we're able to do in providing this data and customizing the data is really powerful. But what we're becoming now is we are an analytics company, essentially, right? Like we're performance management and we're understanding a deep amount of data now because we're working with companies from as large as Anticimex all the way down to I think our smallest client is actually in Arizona. They have one employee. So one employee all the way up to thousands of employees we're using and working with across the spectrum and across the entire United States now. And so we have literally millions of appointments that are getting completed in our, like, and the data is getting processed through our system every single day across all of these things. And so we're seeing things at a really cool level. And what we're not doing a ton as far as this analytics go right now, but I will say as we continue to onboard more and more clients, we have the capacity to do some really interesting things from benchmarking and guidelines and consulting to be able to show our operators, hey, this is what's happening throughout the rest of the industry without disclosing obviously individual data, but saying these are trends, this is what's happening here, this is what we recommend you do. Or, hey, this, when users interact with our system in this way, they have a tendency to improve in other ways, X, Y, and Z. And so we're just going to be able to continue growing in that way. And I think there's some really cool pieces that AI can support. Do I call us an AI company? No, not at all. Do we use AI on an absolutely daily basis? Yes, 100%. And our clients see that. I'm not a big fan of just like fluff advertising, just for the sake of saying we're an AI company. But at the same time, yes, there's an incredible amount of value that comes from just being able to speed up that analysis.
Awesome. I like your answer there. As far as like, I just attended this trainer yesterday talking about, he was talking to business owners. Imagine if an owner of a pest control company got a real evaluation of what his business is worth based on the data. The data that you're pulling and pushing through these KPIs would make it a lot easier to come up with a real number. And the only number that a CEO, or I'm sorry, an owner should care about, or the one KPI that they're responsible for is, what is the value of your business? And did it increase over last year? I mean, we have all these KPIs that we track, right? But what if we had the data that you're pulling and pushing through the organization, you're able to come back and say, hey, based on your efficiency, based off of all this data, you come back and say, okay, the multiplier for your business is not a 2.5, it's closer to a 3.5. You moved it by X because of your efficiency, because of your, the brand reputation, whatever that you're pulling. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool to.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that actually because I won't name them for obvious reasons, but we have a client right now that's going through the potential acquisition process. And it's really interesting as you start to jump into that because, and I went through it, right? We sold to Truly Nolan at the end of 22. And I remember going back through and trying to generate these reports that now I know were wrong. Just because the way that Field Routes was delivering that data to us, I know it's wrong. And could that have affected my valuation? And did it? 100%. Because if I'm telling them that my callback rate is X, but it's actually Y, my clients are happier. And they should be worth more because I'm having to go back to those homes less. If my cancellation rates were off because of X, Y, and Z, I could have gotten a better valuation. So yeah, we're actually now able to. This client that's going through it is going back through our system and showing them, hey, this is the last year. We have the capacity to show comparisons month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, and so they can see all of these metrics in really simple format, and they're using it to gain an advantage in their valuation. So yeah, it's funny that you say that because we're literally having these conversations right now.
Well, it's interesting that the national statistic is less than 2% of business owners know what their business is worth. And I think that's important, especially when, a large percentage, over 75%, are unhappy that they sold their company. And, it's probably because they felt like they could get more, they could have got more. But these tools could be super helpful with making those analysis and beyond just the, hey, most CEOs or most pest control owners are thinking, hey, what is this going to cost me to run this software on my business? Well, the question is, what is it costing you right now to not have it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, most people, I mean, think about it, go back 20 years and people are running their routes on paper,
Right. Yeah.
compared, yeah,
Yeah, you
date,
start to
yeah,
look at some of these things like this is a good connection from both of us, right? Like you're on the marketing side. We build CSR dashboards, we build sales dashboards. So every role has a dashboard. So interesting connection, right? Like look at a CSR dashboard. We integrate with phone systems, right? So say like a Voice for Pest or Dialpad or one of those systems. Um, you market, right? You handle the marketing campaigns. You're driving these people to call into a business. I can't tell you how frustrated it would make me when we would spend, I think we were literally tens of thousands of dollars every month in marketing to drive leads to us, and my CSR team wasn't answering the phone. I'm like, guys, that all you have to do is pick up the phone. I know our close rates are 45%. I know we're going to do it once we get on the phone, but our answer rates are 70%. We cannot have answer rates of 70%. And they just didn't know it, right? So I would have to be refreshing them constantly, like, you have to be at a 95% answer rate. If you've got to transfer it to somebody that's open so that you can take the call, whatever it is, we have to answer these phones. And so we can plug into the phone systems, and that's one of the major metrics that we track for CSRs is answer rate. So we can pull that out of the voice over IP system, show it to the CSR, and now they're like, hey, I didn't realize I was at 80%. Now I'm at 95. If you from a marketing company could now have that value of being like, we know we're sending you 200 leads every month. Before you were only closing 60 of them, and now you're closing 120. Like that's incredible. And now they think you're better as a marketing company because you're sending them more sale potential. But it was really just this minor tweak in a behavior change.
that's great. I love that you shared that. I mean, it is a big point of just answering the phone or, being cognizant of how it's being answered, even, with call, what is the outcomes of those calls and how people are doing. So we're going to shift gears just a little bit here. We've been talking about Driven and about the software program, 4,500. You said users out there, and as you continue to evolve and help PCOs make better decisions driven by their own data, and or even planting seeds about, hey, have you thought about putting a GPS software running on your trucks beyond just if your truck was stolen? How about efficiency? How about this? How about that? Things you're planting seeds that people just don't know about.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. How do we tell that story? We'll get on podcasts and talk about the impact on the market. Glad that you're involved with NPMA and I would say demystifying AI and breaking it down for the business owner. That's all good. Talk about for a minute your journey, because there's a lot of PCOs that are subscribed. They're in our channels. They may be interested in marketing, but the thought is, you were in it for 10 years. And part of what you have right now is because a culmination of that experience. And maybe initially it was to save those 15 hours. But what was your journey? I mean, tell us a little bit about your journey through starting. Why did you start a pest control company? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I was in startups from the early stages, right? I think I was 20 when I had my first company. I dropped out of college to my father's displeasure to start that first company, and it was a custom clothing company. We made custom suits for men. It was a ton of fun. Terrible business model, but just something that was fun, and we did that. And so ended up moving on from that. I was living in downtown San Francisco, working on another tech startup at the time. And out of the blue, I got a call from a good friend who I knew had been doing door-to-door sales in pest control. And he called me. He was working for one of the big players. It was Altera, now Active, but he was their top salesman and was making incredible money selling door-to-door pest control. And he called me and he's like, "Hey, I want to talk. I've been in this space for a while. I don't really love the door-to-door mentality. No shade on the door-to-door companies, but he's like, I don't really love it, but I think there's something special in pest control." He's like, "It's the most unsexy industry I could imagine, but I think there's potential here. I think there's something that we could do if we started a pest control business." And he's like, "I know the sales aspect. I don't want to do door to door, but I know how to generally market and sell pest control, and you know how to run a business. So would you consider doing this with me and starting a company together?" And I'm on the 42nd floor of my apartment in downtown San Francisco, like living the tech startup life, right? And he asks me to leave that and go to El Paso, Texas, of all places, to start a pest control company together. And in my gut, like, should I have said no to that? I mean, I'm glad I didn't, but like just on paper, looking at those two things, one definitely sounds better than the other. But ultimately decided it was the right choice and packed up everything and moved to El Paso. And so we started our company. That was in 2012. And we decided we weren't going to do the door-to-door program because we really wanted to build a long-term sustainable business. Had no anticipation of exiting. It was like, let's grow a real business here. So we started the first, 5 or 6 years were good. We grew pretty healthily. We got to a point, in full disclosure, where we kind of stepped out of the business and we're like, hey, it's running itself. It's doing what it's supposed to. It's making us enough money in a lifestyle kind of business. And so we stepped out. We ended up getting into the dental space of all things and started buying dental practices and jumped that direction. Honestly, I got bored of it. The dental space is not an exciting industry. There's a ton of money potential, but it just wasn't fun for us. So we ended up selling those and jumped back into pest control. We said, hey, we have this company that's doing well. Why are we doing other things? Like, let's jump back and make this thing something big. So we did that, and that was when we decided, hey, we're going to do this right. So we started growing. There's a ton of stories in there that are better for another day. We had theft. We had, all kinds of crazy things in our path, but we ended up growing pretty rapidly at that point. We built an incredible relationship with a home inspection company that was based in Texas that wanted to send all of their termite inspections. They would do the home inspection, find an opportunity for a termite inspection, and send it to us. So we built an awesome partnership with that. We ended up growing from El Paso to San Antonio and Austin and Dallas. And so we had those 4 offices kind of across Texas. But that's where we started digging into the data. And we're like, we've got 25 trucks out in the roads, and they're all doing different things. I'm like, honestly, I don't know what we're doing. Like, you talk about business owners not knowing what their value was. I had no idea. I thought we were doing things right. We had more money in the bank at the end of the month than we did at the beginning of the month, which sounds good. But we didn't know why that was happening. And so that's really when we started digging into the details of the business, realized that we were running an okay business, but that there were a lot of areas that we could improve, and and change that. And so yeah, we ended up going through the process, and truly Nolan was incredible. They were great to work with. 10 out of 10 recommend if anyone's looking. Obviously I know a ton of the other acquirers as well now, but yeah, it was a really good experience. Honestly, we never thought we were going to leave pest control. We thought that was going to be it for us forever. But when we found this, we just said, hey, there's nobody doing this in pest control. We have the irrational confidence to go build something that we have no idea how to build. And so let's try it. Let's give it a shot. And thankfully we're very well integrated into the pest control space and love this world and have tons of friends in it. And so it's been really cool to see that support and the quick grasping of kind of what we do and why we do it.
That's awesome. I'm friends with the Nolans as well. Two of them are my business partners. Full disclosure.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, they're great people, and been working with them for over 5 years. So that's cool. I agree with you. So let me get this straight. You're working clothes, suits in California, in San Francisco. Then you go to this pest control thing. You get bored as an entrepreneur. Boom, you're doing dental stuff. You go back, you sell. Now you're in software. I did see the one news thing on feed on your site says that you had some seed capital to do this thing, and now you're doing it. Yeah, I don't think this is our last podcast, Adam. This is pretty cool. Don't be surprised if I ask you to be involved with our mastermind. I'd love to have you come to our second intensive at the end of this year. Looking for a date that's going to work, that's not going to conflict with Pest World, but it would be awesome to have you on. I can't wait to see how you add new elements to your technology out there that are coming. So this is fun to watch you on this journey. And man, this was great. I think there's a ton of value for the PCOs that listen in on this. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the near future and talking more.
Well, you're awesome. I really appreciate it. It's been fun to chat, and I'm looking forward to it.
Right on. Thanks, Adam, for your time today.
No, thanks, Wyatt.
That's a wrap on this episode of SwarmCast. Thanks for tuning in and arming yourself with the marketing firepower to keep your pest control business thriving. Before you scurry off, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave us a review. It helps us spread like a well-placed bait station. Got a topic you want us to tackle? Drop us a line and let's keep the conversation buzzing. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strategic, and keep swarming the market.